The stars were still burning, but only barely. Their light was a thin, fractured thing, spilling weakly through a sea of drifting debris, across the twisted carcasses of ships that once carried empires. Radiation storms whispered through the wreckage, turning shattered hulls into faintly glowing tombs. Among that endless graveyard drifted the Vigilant Dawn, a human vessel once built for exploration and peace, now reduced to a trembling shadow of itself. The ship's plating was scarred, patchwork repairs made from scavenged alloys that didn't quite fit together. Its engines flickered erratically, coughing bursts of blue light into the void. Inside, corridors hummed with the low throb of failing life support systems. Every sound echoed too loudly, the hiss of vents, the hum of oxygen scrubbers, the distant shudder of metal under strain. Captain Mara Lorne stood at the forward viewport, watching the black horizon roll past. Her reflection looked hollow, eyes sunken, hair pulled back in a braid that had long since lost its order. She had commanded fleets once. Now she commanded ghosts. Behind her, the navigation officer spoke in a low, tired voice. "We're still tracking the signal, Captain. Faint power signature, 15,000 clicks ahead, drifting near the Perseid wreck belt." Mara didn't turn. Human. Unknown. Could be debris. Could be another Skav ship. A pause. Or something worse. Everything these days could be something worse. Pirates. Plague ships. The scavenger fleets that stripped corpses of both metal and memory. Still, something in that faint signature tugged at her. Not a distress beacon, but steady, rhythmic, like a pulse. "Adjust course," she said. "We'll take a look." The bridge crew obeyed without enthusiasm. Hope was a dangerous thing to feel out here, among the ruins of fallen worlds. They had seen what hope did to people. But still, they followed her voice, because Mara Lorne was one of the last captains who still spoke with conviction. Hours passed in the slow crawl of sublight travel. The Vigilant Dawn slid through the scattered bones of civilization, broken habitats, torn cargo hulks, drifting flags that no longer represented anyone. When the signal finally strengthened, the sensors flickered uncertainly, unable to categorize what they were seeing. The object wasn't human. It was vast, but delicate, a lattice of translucent material that shimmered faintly with internal light. It looked like a sculpture grown from frozen mist, its contours too perfect to be mechanical. It wasn't dead, either. Something inside it still pulsed, faintly alive. "Valari," someone whispered. The word hung in the stale air like a curse. The Valari had been legends once, beings of crystalline beauty, minds interlinked through resonance and light. They built cities that sang, bridges that glowed with the rhythm of their thoughts. And then, when their harmony shattered, they tore each other apart with the fury of a dying star. Now their name was spoken only in cautionary tales, a warning of what happened when pride reached too high. Mara watched the alien vessel spin slowly against the backdrop of nebular fire. The human wars had ended much the same way. Maybe the universe had a cruel sense of symmetry. Life signs. Faint. One, maybe two. Hard to tell through the hull interference. Her instinct said to leave it. Her conscience said otherwise. "Prepare the docking bay," she ordered. "We're bringing them aboard." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Contact with alien remnants was forbidden under every surviving treaty, but treaties meant nothing when there was no government left to enforce them. When the Valari craft was finally pulled into the docking bay, it looked like a fallen star. Its surface rippled as if alive, light shifting across its veins like slow lightning. The air around it crackled faintly, and the temperature dropped several degrees. Mara stepped forward, her boots clanging softly against the deck. The rescue team flanked her, suits sealed, rifles slung low but ready. A seam appeared along the alien hull, and a panel opened with the slow grace of a living creature stretching after sleep. From within emerged a figure, tall, slender, luminous in a way that was almost painful to look at. Its skin refracted the cold light, shifting through hues of silver and indigo. The alien fell to one knee, trembling, its voice a fractured harmony of tones. "You are human." Mara's pulse quickened. It spoke their language, or something like it, distorted, melodic. She lowered her weapon slightly. "You're Valari. What happened to your ship?" The alien's eyes, faceted like gemstones, turned toward the broken vessel. "Exile. We fled the silence." But the silence followed. A tremor passed through the deck as the alien collapsed forward. The crew moved quickly, securing it, scanning for contagions. Its body temperature was far below human norm, yet its pulse burned faintly beneath translucent skin. Hours later, as the Valari lay in the medbay surrounded by flickering monitors, Mara stood at the viewport again. Outside, the stars drifted, cold, indifferent. She thought of the millions dead, the empires gone to dust. And now, this, an exile from another dying world, reaching out through the void like a reflection of humanity itself. In the dark, a quiet voice from the medical officer broke her thoughts. "Captain, it keeps saying something. Over and over." Mara turned. "What?" The officer hesitated. "It says, we're not alone anymore." Mara looked back to the stars, where the debris of two civilizations floated side by side, caught in the same endless current. For the first time in years, she didn't feel entirely hollow. The universe was vast, cruel, uncaring, but maybe, just maybe, it still had room for the warmth of one more fragile connection. The Valari's presence changed the rhythm of the vigilant dawn. It was as if the ship itself sensed something alien in its veins. Lights flickered unpredictably, the air hummed with faint vibrations, and even the recycled oxygen carried a strange metallic taste. The crew moved through the corridors with a new kind of silence, not the weariness of survivors, but the tension of creatures who had found something they didn't understand. Mara Lorne walked the ship with deliberate calm. She had faced mutinies, sieges, and the slow death of a collapsing empire, but this was different. The alien they'd rescued lay in the med bay, half dreaming, half whispering in a language that sounded like shards of music breaking. The crew called it, the Echo, though it had given them a name in halting speech, Seraph Kale. When Mara entered the med bay, the lights dimmed automatically to adjust to the Valari's comfort. The alien's skin shimmered faintly, as if starlight had been woven beneath its surface. Its eyes opened, and the faint resonance in the room deepened, a vibration at the edge of hearing that made Mara's pulse stutter. "You are, still here," Seraph said, its voice layered, melodic, a harmony that made human words feel inadequate. "You're lucky we found you," Mara replied, folding her arms. "Your ship was torn apart. What were you doing out there?" A pause, and then the alien's features shifted, light patterns pulsing faintly across its body, as though emotion had physical form. "Running. We were all running." "From what?" "From ourselves." Mara didn't press further. The alien's mind seemed fragile, stretched thin between grief and exhaustion. Instead, she activated a console beside the bed, showing the star maps they had managed to salvage from the Valari vessel. The data shimmered, beautiful, alien, filled with coordinates that no human star chart recognized. "This," she said quietly, "is more than we've seen in years. You could help us find a place to start again." Serapha's gaze lingered on the maps, then drifted to her. "And if I refuse? Then we'll both keep drifting until the void takes us." She leaned closer, her tone softening. "You're not our prisoner. You're a guest. But guests earn their keep." Something flickered in the Valari's expression, a mix of amusement and sorrow. "You speak like a conqueror pretending to be kind." Mara smiled thinly. "And you speak like a god pretending to be mortal." The faintest ripple of laughter filled the air, and for a heartbeat, the ship felt lighter. Days turned into a rhythm. The Valari learned quickly, absorbing human technology as if remembering rather than studying it. It repaired failing systems, whispering to the machinery in resonant frequencies that bypassed the need for tools. The crew, once wary, began to watch with fascination as dead consoles flared back to life under Saratha's touch. It was said that Valari ships had been living things, grown rather than built. Now, the vigilant dawn seemed to respond, groaning and sighing as if awakening from long sleep. Still, fear lingered. Some among the crew spoke of radiation sickness, others of manipulation. Humans had not survived the fall of their empires by trusting easily. On the fifth night after the rescue, Mara found herself in the observation deck. Beyond the reinforced glass, a dying star burned in slow agony, casting orange light over her reflection. She felt the weight of command pressing harder with every hour. Bringing the Valari aboard might have doomed them, or saved them. It was impossible to know which. She heard the soft chime of the door behind her before the alien's reflection appeared beside her own. "You watch the dying ones," Sarath said, voice low, the harmonics quieter now, more human. "Stars?" "Yes. You stare at them as if their death gives you meaning." Mara exhaled. "Maybe it does. When everything else falls apart, it's good to know something bigger than us still burns." Sarath tilted its head. The Valari once believed stars were the eyes of those who came before. When they faded, we said they had finally closed to rest. But now I wonder, maybe they close because no one looks back. The words lingered between them like static. Outside, the dying star flared once more, its final breath, and then collapsed inward, leaving only darkness. "Your people," Mara said finally, "they destroyed themselves." Saratha's light dimmed. "We were born connected. Minds woven through sound and light. When one of us fell into despair, others followed. When one hungered for power, that hunger multiplied. We became a storm that devoured itself. Those who refused to sing the same melody were cast out. Exiles." "Yes." A slow nod. "You understand." Too well, Mara thought. Humanity had sung its own wars into existence, their symphony one of fire and ruin. Perhaps all intelligent species eventually drowned in the echoes of their own voices. When she spoke again, it was quiet. "You said, 'we.' Are there more of you?" Sarath looked into the void. There were. But silence spreads faster than sound. I do not know who else still breathes. The alien reached out, its fingers brushing the glass, leaving faint trails of luminescence. "You humans, you are strange. You destroy as we did, yet you keep walking. Why?" Mara didn't answer immediately. She thought of the ashes of Earth, the colonies reduced to drifting rubble, the children born in tin can ships with no sky to see. "Because we have to," she said at last. "Because if we stop, the cold wins." Sarath turned toward her, the faint light of its eyes softening. "Then perhaps I should learn to walk." When it left the deck, the silence that followed was not the same. It was softer somehow, almost alive. That night, the vigilant dawn altered its course toward the edge of an uncharted nebula. Sarath had suggested it, said the region held worlds untouched by war, places where even the stars seemed to hum in harmony. In her cabin, Mara watched the navigation lines shift across the holographic display. The aliens' coordinates glowed faintly blue, guiding them toward something unknown. For the first time in years, their trajectory wasn't away from destruction, it was toward possibility. And deep in the ship's core, the hum of the engines blended with another sound, faint, rhythmic, almost like a second heartbeat. The nebula loomed like a living curtain of color, violet storms folding into cobalt clouds, streaked with electric green veins that pulsed like arteries. The vigilant dawn drifted at the edge of it, surrounded by silence that seemed to breathe. Radiation readings flickered wildly, scattering across the consoles in erratic bursts. The ship's shields hummed at their limits, casting a faint glow along the hull. Beyond the viewing deck, space rippled and twisted, as if reality itself were struggling to hold its shape. Mara stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the spectacle with a wary kind of awe. The nebula wasn't on any chart. Even Saratha's maps had marked it only with a symbol, a spiral of light, annotated in the aliens' fluid script. It had taken 2 weeks of slow travel to reach this point, and every day since entering the region, strange things had begun to happen aboard the ship. Voices in the static. Glimpses of faces that weren't there. Tools misplaced, then found in impossible places. The Volari claimed it was the nebula's resonance interfering with the ship's neural systems, but Mara had begun to wonder if the interference ran deeper, into their minds. "Engine stable?" she asked without looking away from the glass. The helmsman nodded, though sweat glistened on his forehead. "Stable enough, Captain. But I'd rather not stay here longer than we need to. Every sensor's reading something different." Saratha's voice flowed from behind her, calm, melodic, but carrying a strange tension. "The nebula is alive. Not in your biological sense, but in song. You can feel it if you listen." Mara turned, meeting the alien's luminous gaze. "Alive? You mean sentient?" "No. Not quite. But aware. The Volari called it the cradle of echoes. It remembers everything that passes through it. Memories don't interfere with fusion reactors." Saratha's expression shifted, light rippling faintly beneath translucent skin. "When the past whispers, the present bends to hear." Before Mara could respond, the ship shuddered violently. Consoles flared. Warning alarms blared through the bridge as a shockwave rippled from the nebula's core. Outside, a stream of light burst through the clouds, coiling toward them like a tendril of molten glass. "Shields at maximum." Mara barked. The impact struck like a heartbeat. For a moment, everything was white. Systems flickered, power surged, and the vigilant dawn was thrown into a slow spin. When vision returned, the nebula's colors had dimmed. The tendril had vanished, but something else had changed. "Report. Power levels stabilizing. No hull breach." The technician hesitated. "But, Captain, the star map. It's different." The display showed the surrounding space, but where once there had been stars, there was now only darkness. The nebula had swallowed them whole. Sarath stepped forward, touching the console. Light spread from its fingertips across the holographic surface. "Not gone," it whispered. "Hidden. Folded. Folded. The nebula bends space the way our minds bend thought. We are, elsewhere now." A ripple of unease swept the crew. Mara could feel it too, a subtle dislocation, as if gravity itself had forgotten its direction. Yet amid the strangeness, another signal pulsed faintly in the dark, a steady rhythm, mechanical and precise. "Is that another ship?" she asked. "Unknown source," the helmsman said. "Bearing 12 degrees starboard, 20,000 clicks." Mara's decision came instantly. "Lock on. Let's see who else got lost." The vigilant dawn glided through the spectral clouds. As they drew closer, a shape emerged, massive, fractured, lit by faint golden veins. It wasn't human, nor Volari. It looked almost organic, its hull curved like the shell of a sleeping leviathan. Its surface shimmered with alien script, symbols rearranging as if alive. "Are you seeing this?" one of the engineers whispered. Sarath moved closer to the viewport, its voice low. "That is not of my people. Older, much older." The ship's sensors detected faint life readings. Against her better judgment, Mara gave the order to dock. The boarding team moved cautiously through the docking corridor. The air beyond the lock was heavy, almost liquid, filled with bioluminescent mist. Walls curved around them, pulsing faintly, veins of light running through what looked disturbingly like flesh. It was less a vessel than a living being frozen in death. As they advanced, their lights caught strange shapes, suspended figures encased in translucent resin, humanoid but distorted, their features blurred as if half remembered. "Captain, One of the soldiers whispered through comms, "These things, they look like they were grown." "Stay alert," Mara said. "We get what data we can and leave." At the center of the alien structure lay a chamber pulsing with faint golden light. Within it hovered a core, a crystalline sphere wrapped in strands of something like muscle fiber. It pulsed in slow rhythm, echoing through their chests. Sareth approached it, almost reverent. "This is a seed. A memory core. It remembers the lives that built it." Before Mara could stop it, Sareth reached out and touched the core. Light exploded outward, filling the chamber with projections, images of cities suspended in clouds, creatures of light and sound weaving through them, then fire and ruin, endless wars that burned across galaxies. The seed showed the rise and fall of civilizations far older than either human or Valari. And then, the images focused. The final vision was of two figures, one human, one Valari, standing side by side beneath twin suns. The light faded, leaving only silence. Mara stared at Sareth, whose expression was unreadable. "What did you just show us?" "Not what I showed you," it said softly. "What it remembered." "Why us? Why that image?" "Because history folds like light. What has happened before will happen again." Mara's calm crackled suddenly. "Captain. We're detecting a surge from the core, energy buildup." The sphere began to hum, its glow intensifying. Mara grabbed Sareth's arm. "We're leaving. Now." They barely made it back through the corridor before the alien vessel convulsed. Energy flared outward, tearing the structure apart in a silent explosion of light. The shockwave slammed into the vigilant Dawn, spinning it end over end before stabilizers caught hold. When the glare faded, the alien ship was gone. The nebula around them had grown darker, quieter, almost empty. Mara sat in her chair, breathing hard. What was that thing? Sareth looked out into the dark, voice low and trembling. "A memory of what we could become, or what we already are." No one spoke. The nebula pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat beneath the void. And somewhere beyond it, unseen, something vast stirred awake, listening to their trespass. The vigilant Dawn limped through the remnants of the nebula, trailing a faint blue aura from its overworked engines. Every system groaned, warning lights blinked erratically, and Mara felt the ship's fatigue as if it were her own. The crew moved like shadows, exhausted yet vigilant, haunted by the memory of the alien vessel's sudden explosion. But even in that silence, a tension lingered, heavier than the vacuum outside, a tension born not of mechanics, but of unspoken truths. Sareth remained by the observation deck, its form glowing faintly against the backdrop of swirling gas. It had been quiet for hours, staring into the void as if the nebula itself were speaking directly to its mind. Mara approached cautiously, sensing that something deeper had shifted within the alien. "You understand," she said softly, "that we can't stay here. Not after what happened." Sareth's light pulsed slowly, almost like breathing. "I understand. Yet I feel its resonance still. The nebula, it is a memory that refuses to die." Mara exhaled and leaned against the glass. "Sometimes I think the universe enjoys reminding us how small we are." "You think small," Sareth said, voice low. "I think human. You measure existence by survival. We measure it by resonance. And yet, in both, there is fragility." She didn't answer. Fragility had been the theme of her life for years. Every colony lost, every fleet shattered, every promise betrayed, it weighed on her in ways she could not speak aloud. The quiet was broken by a calm alert. "Captain," the helmsman said, voice tense. "We're receiving a coded transmission." Repeating, coded, not human. Valari patterns, but altered. "It's coming from deep space, near the Ori system." Mara felt a pulse of unease. "Can you decrypt it?" "Partially," he replied. "It's fragmented, like someone wants it heard, but not understood. There's urgency in the signal." Sereth moved closer, body light flickering in resonance. It is a warning. I recognize the patterns. My people, what remains, send it. Mara's hand brushed the console. Then we answer it. Set a course. The journey was slow. The coordinates took them past dead suns and shattered moons, through asteroid fields that rattled the hull with every small impact. The vigilant dawn felt smaller with each passing light year, swallowed by the expanse of uncharted space. Yet Seretha's presence lent an odd comfort. Its harmonics seemed to calm the engines, quiet the restless hum in the corridors. When they finally approached the Ori system, the view through the observation deck was breathtaking, and horrifying. An entire planet had been hollowed, its surface shattered by immense explosions, craters deep enough to swallow cities. Scattered across orbit were the remnants of massive fleets, neither human nor entirely Volari, but something in between, machines with living cores, vessels grown as if from a fusion of biology and alloy. War, Mara whispered. This was war. Seretha's voice was low, almost mournful. Yes. A war before ours, but not unlike yours. The remnants speak to those who listen. And now they call to us. Sensors detected life signs, small, faint, scattered survivors. The planet's surface was still active with movement. Some of the machines pulsed in rhythmic patterns, repairing themselves with organic efficiency. Others seemed dormant, their cores flickering with weak energy. Prepare boarding teams, Mara ordered. We need information, and maybe allies. As the boarding shuttles detached, Sereth hovered close to the viewport. You do not understand the danger. What remains here is not just alive, it remembers betrayal. It does not forgive. The team landed in the crater of one shattered city. Dust rose around them, carrying the scent of ozone and scorched metal. Shattered towers jutted like broken teeth, and the wind carried faint electrical pulses that made the hair on their arms stand on end. The survivors they found were as fragmented as the world around them, humans who had been merged with alien technology, Volari exiles with fractured minds, beings that defied classification entirely. Identify yourselves. Mara shouted into the emptiness. A figure emerged, half-formed from machinery and flesh, light flickering beneath its surface. Its voice was synthetic and human at once. You do not belong. Mara took a step forward. We are survivors. We mean no harm. The figure paused, eyes, or what passed for eyes, studying them with clinical curiosity. All survivors are lies, it said. All contact brings collapse. Sereth stepped forward, light flaring faintly. We do not seek to conquer. We seek understanding. We seek family. The figure regarded them silently, then a ripple passed through its form. Others emerged, some wary, some aggressive. Tension spiraled, a predator's standoff in the hushed ruins. Then, unexpectedly, one of the hybrid beings extended a hand, a gesture of truce. The moment was fragile, suspended in the dust and wind. Mara sensed the weight of it. Every step they took, every word spoken, could ignite chaos, or forge connection. The survivors led them to a hollowed tower at the city's center, where a strange light pulsed from beneath the floor. It was a core of memory, similar to the seed they had encountered in the nebula. Here, it held centuries of conflict, fear, and the faint echo of hope. Seretha's glow intensified. This is the reason the signal reached us. It calls to those who can hear its resonance. Those who can rebuild without repeating the mistakes of the past. Mara studied the flickering projections, the wars, the betrayals, the fleeting moments of collaboration. She understood then why Sereth had chosen to follow them. Survival alone was meaningless. What mattered was connection, trust, and the courage to stand together in the shadow of the past. As night fell over the shattered planet, Mara and Sereth watched the memory core pulse like a heartbeat. The survivors around them, fragile and wary, began to stir with quiet curiosity. For the first time since leaving the nebula, Mara felt the faintest warmth grow in her chest. The universe was indifferent, yes, but perhaps, in these ruins, they could carve out a place where companionship mattered more than conquest, where courage could outshine fear, and where exiles might finally find a home. Somewhere beyond the shattered city, the wind carried a faint resonance, soft, melodic, and insistently alive. And in that resonance, Mara knew they were not alone. The vigilant dawn trembled as it broke orbit, its hull groaning under the strain of acceleration. Beyond the shattered planet, the Ori system stretched outward, black and indifferent, but the remnants of the hybrid fleets lingered, silent sentinels that could awaken at the slightest provocation. Mara's hands clenched the edges of the command console, her mind restless, ears attuned to every fluctuation of power, every vibration that suggested the ships around them were more than empty shells. Sereth hovered nearby, its luminescence faint, like the dying light of a distant star. "They are awake," it said. "Not all, but enough to notice us." Mara's pulse quickened. "How many?" "Impossible to count. But their attention is focused, on Haven's reach." The name hung in the air, though the planet they had yet to discover. Seretha's tone carried both awe and concern. "A place we may call home, but we are being followed." Mara's mind raced. They had fought to survive in the void, rescued the exiled Valari, navigated the cradle of echoes, and endured the hollowed remnants of the Ori system, but now, danger approached like a shadow that refused to fade. She activated the ship sensors, sweeping for signatures. Ships composed of amalgamated flesh and alloy lurked in the void, their forms shifting like living nightmares. Their cores pulsed with erratic energy, feeding off memories encoded into their systems, memories of war, loss, and betrayal. "Prepare weapons," she ordered. "But stay cautious. We don't know their capabilities." The crew moved with silent efficiency. Missiles and plasma turrets were armed, shields raised to near maximum. Yet even as they readied for combat, Mara felt a flicker of uncertainty. This wasn't a conventional fight. The enemy was not merely alive, it was sentient, adaptive, and remembered every mistake ever made against it. Seretha's voice cut through the tension, resonant and calm. "The way forward is not solely in force. If we fight them head-on, the outcome is death. But together, humans and Valari, perhaps we can guide them." Mara frowned. "Guide them?" "Through resonance," Sereth replied. "Through shared purpose. We can sing the same melody, even in conflict, and bend their attention without breaking it." The alien suggestion was unconventional, bordering on madness, but Mara had learned over years of survival that the impossible often became necessary. "Prepare the resonance emitters," she said. "Let's try your way first." The crew worked swiftly, installing the devices Sereth had devised, crystalline amplifiers designed to broadcast a harmonic frequency that could interface with the hybrid ship's cores. It was a delicate operation, one misstep, and the energy could backfire, frying the vigilant Dawn's systems. As they approached the leading hybrid vessel, the resonance emitters hummed, sending a faint, melodic pulse through space. The hybrid ships quivered as though feeling a heartbeat, their energy readings fluctuating with the rhythm. Lights pulsed along their hulls, and for a moment, the void seemed to hold its breath. Then the first contact came, a tendril of energy reached outward, brushing against the shields of the vigilant Dawn. Mara felt it in her chest, a vibration that resonated with her own heartbeat. The crew staggered slightly, but Seretha's presence stabilized the pulse, guiding it like a conductor through an orchestra. "Focus!" Mara shouted. "Keep the harmony steady." The tendrils withdrew slightly, as if considering, testing. The leading hybrid vessel shifted in orbit, aligning its form parallel to theirs, not aggressively, but curious. "Keep going," Sereth urged. "They respond to intent, not threat. Show them we are not enemies." Mara clenched her jaw and let the resonance flow, weaving human determination with Valari harmonic precision. Slowly, the fleet around them pulsed in synchrony. Lights flared, cores stabilized, and the energy reading smoothed into a pattern of recognition. For the first time, the hybrid fleet paused, not advancing, not attacking, just watching. Mara felt an almost imperceptible connection through the resonance, a whisper of understanding. The ships were cautious, yes, but they were listening. The hours stretched into an eerie calm. The void, once threatening, now thrummed with potential. Through the resonance, Mara sensed the fear, the hope, and the memories embedded within the hybrid vessels. They remembered betrayal, but also resilience. They remembered war, but also unity. Finally, the leading vessel pulsed once more, then emitted a signal, a harmonic code translated by Seraph into intelligible form. "We acknowledge. We will follow." Mara exhaled, tension draining from her body. "Follow us, where?" she asked, though she already had an idea. "Where life persists," Seraph replied, its light flaring brighter. "To a place we can call home. Together." The hybrid fleet shifted, falling into formation around the vigilant dawn, no longer threats, but silent companions. Mara watched the display, heart pounding with both awe and caution. The universe had thrown them countless trials, yet here, amid the ruins of countless worlds, they had forged an untested alliance, one built on trust, resonance, and courage. Ahead, uncharted and untouched, lay a small world hidden within the embrace of a violet nebula, a planet Seraph called Haven's Reach. Its surface shimmered faintly, oceans reflecting twin suns in a brilliance untouched by war. Mara felt the weight of possibility settle over her. "This is it," she said softly. "Our chance to start again." Seraph's luminescence deepened, resonating with the planet's faint magnetic field. "And this time," it whispered, "we will not stand alone." As the fleet approached Haven's Reach, the twin suns rose over the horizon, casting violet light across oceans and forests yet unspoiled. For the first time in generations, both human and Valari exiles felt something deeper than survival, hope. And in that hope, a fragile promise of family, courage, and warmth stronger than any empire ever could offer. The dawn over Haven's Reach was slow, deliberate, as if the planet itself had waited centuries to see life awaken on its surface. Light filtered through violet clouds, igniting oceans and forests in hues that defied description. From orbit, Mara watched the twin suns rise, their warmth touching the living domes they had begun to construct, structures grown with Valari bioengineering and reinforced with human ingenuity. They were fragile, yet vibrant, humming faintly in resonance with the planet's magnetic field. The hybrid fleet that had followed them from the Ori system floated silently around the planet, a protective halo of sentience and memory. The vessels no longer pulsed with suspicion but with the rhythm of recognition, their cores synchronized with the resonance Seraph had cultivated. Mara could feel it in her chest, the hum of connection, the weight of survival transformed into something larger than herself. On the surface, the settlers worked in a careful, purposeful harmony. Humans and Valari moved side by side, children laughing between the columns of living glass, half human, half Valari, and fully alive in ways neither species could have imagined alone. The colony was still raw, scarred by hurried construction and the lingering debris of old warships, but the people moved with a determination that made Mara think they could endure anything. Seraph hovered above the settlement, light shifting gently across its body as it observed the activity. "They are learning," it said, voice calm but imbued with wonder. "The resonance spreads beyond my direction. It is mutual. They are becoming the melody." Mara's gaze followed a group of children running through the violet grass, laughing as they chased bioluminescent insects that flickered like sparks. It wasn't just survival, then, she murmured. It was this, learning to live with each other. A sudden alert drew her attention. Sensors detected incoming vessels, not hostile, but distant, drifting cautiously through space. She frowned, then looked to Seraph. "They are explorers," the Valari replied. "Perhaps survivors of other exiles, drawn by the resonance of life here. They are wary, yet curious." Mara allowed herself a faint smile. "Then let them come." This place, it has room for more than just us. Hours later, the newcomers arrived. Small ships, battered but intact, carried humans and Valari alike, remnants of scattered colonies, the last threads of exiled empires. They hesitated at the edge of the atmosphere, scanning the domes, the forests, the glimmering cities in the distance. Mara met them from the landing platform, arms open in cautious greeting. "We've come to join," one of them asked, voice shaky. "Is this safe?" Mara's eyes swept the settlement, the children, the thriving gardens, the humming domes. "It's as safe as we can make it. And it's home. Welcome." Sereth descended beside her, radiant and silent, the light from its body blending with the sun. "Home," it repeated, as though savoring the word. "The universe is indifferent, yet we create meaning. This is what it remembers most vividly: warmth, connection, courage." The hybrid fleet, now stationed in orbit, emitted a subtle pulse of acknowledgement, a song woven from memory and awareness, harmonizing with the settlement's own resonance. Humans and Valari alike paused, feeling the vibration, recognizing that survival alone was no longer enough. They had built a family, a community stronger than any empire, stronger than the void itself. Over the following weeks, Haven's reach began to transform. Fields grew where rubble once lay. Pools of liquid light, created by Valari bioengineering, spread through the forests, purifying water and stabilizing ecosystems. Schools of hybrid children learned languages of both species, weaving words and harmonics into melodies of understanding. Mara oversaw infrastructure, while Sereth guided environmental harmony, and together they balanced the delicate tensions of growth and adaptation. Yet the past was never entirely silent. Occasionally, memory echoes from the Ori system or the Cradle of Echoes would ripple across the settlement, unsettling some, reminding all of the fragility of what they had built. But instead of fear, these echoes became lessons, reminders of choices made, mistakes avoided, paths taken with courage. They were the inheritance of both human resilience and Valari insight. One evening, Mara and Sereth stood on a plateau overlooking the settlement. The twin suns dipped toward the horizon, painting the clouds in molten shades of violet and gold. Children's laughter floated up from the valley below, and the low hum of the hybrid fleet resonated faintly through the ground. "You kept your word," Mara said softly. "You said we wouldn't be alone." Seretha's form shimmered, pulse steady and comforting. "You have understood it yourself. Warmth, courage, connection, these are the forces that endure. Even in exile, even in void. They are what we remember, what we carry forward." Mara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of centuries of exile, destruction, and survival. She let it fall away into the violet wind. "Then we've begun something that lasts," she said. "Something that lasts," Sereth echoed. Night fell over Haven's reach, and for the first time in generations, silence was not empty but alive. The domes pulsed gently with light, forests whispered under the twin moons, and the oceans reflected starlight like a promise. The humans, the Valari, the hybrids, they had endured exile, war, and the void itself. They had survived not by strength alone, but by finding each other. And in the warmth of companionship, in the courage of shared purpose, they discovered something more enduring than empires: a home, a family, and hope that stretched across the stars. Above them, the twin suns set in quiet brilliance, and Haven's reach exhaled, alive with the resonance of life, belonging, and the promise of tomorrow.